Okay, part 2 of how to win every argument against a woman and to have her still love you for it. Alright, I'm going to teach you how to beat this woman into submission with your words. I'm just kidding, that's not exactly how it works. Alright, so let's recap from the last video. I'm not going to redo the last video in this video, but I'll recap a few points. I recommend that you watch part 1. Okay. Also recommend, if you're interested in learning more about why you don't appeal to reason with a woman, why it's not the greatest idea. It doesn't matter what her IQ level is. This is not about intelligence. It has to do with brain wiring and how a woman's brain is wired different than that of a man's. And there's an emotional exchange in the relationship. So rationale is kind of out the window when there's an argument or disagreement or dispute. But check out our Rational Male channel. The episode's called Appeals to Reason. I'll link it in the description. That's a good couple hours of discussion on that topic. So that's good. All right, you can go to that. But one point, though, I want to make about appealing to reason. Trying to convince her of your points. Okay, what is that exactly? That's actually supplicating yourself to her. All right, that's actually chasing her, because what you're demonstrating or saying is that her opinion is so important and is so validating or invalidating to you. You're basically chasing her for validation, because her not agreeing with you invalidates you. So you have to chase her with logic and reason and explanations to get her validation, so she can agree with you, and then you could go, oh boy, I'm a good boy because she agreed with me. You see the problem with this? If you've been paying any attention to other videos I've put out, is that you don't supplicate yourself to a woman. It's unattractive. You know what I mean? And you don't seek validation from a woman ever. That's unattractive. And so when you're chasing with your logic and your explanation, and you're trying to fight this argument with reason or appeals to her, just trying to get her and convince her and trying to do all this convincing, you're actually supplicating yourself to her, because you are seeking its validation, seeking behavior. It comes across as unattractive, it comes across as weak, and she is never going to respect you for doing that. Even though you're really just you may not be trying to do that. You may be just communicating like how a man communicates, which is through logic and reason first, before emotion, okay? But that is not how that's going to be perceived by her. And communication is always a two-way street, all right? So you have to, it's not about, well, fuck everybody, they just need to communicate the way that I communicate. It's not really how communication works, okay? You have to ask yourself, what is winning? You know what I mean? And so, women don't want you to explain shit. They just don't. In fact, have you ever gotten into, and even outside of I'm guilty of this, by the way, outside of the context of an argument, right? You just get into over-explaining some shit, and she gets really kind of annoyed, and she's just like, yeah, I really don't, yeah, I'm fine, I don't need this explanation. Right? And she gets kind of bitchy about it. All right, because they don't want you to explain shit. Even the word mansplaining, as dumb of a word as that is, why is that even a word? It's a word because women find it actually offensive almost and problematic when anybody tries to explain anything to them, because they don't communicate through logic first. And so if they're looking for that emotional exchange with you, which is what any dating scenario is, okay, then that's what they're looking to get out of you. Okay, an emotional and a sexual exchange. They're not looking for your logic, reason, and explanations. Doesn't mean that they don't respect your intelligence or any of that. It's just not the way that they communicate. They just want you to know shit. They want you to know the shit, and then for the shit just to happen for them. All right, that's how that they want. They don't want the explanation and the mechanics and the descriptions and why it's like this. They just want shit to happen, and they want it to be the right shit. They want to be happy about it and emotionally drawn towards you and all that stuff. That's what they want. They want you to know the answers and what to do. They don't want to explain anything to you either. Again, that's not the communication exchange. Okay, so, um, yeah, and so then recap another point here too is to argue at all, to get caught in an argument, is to actually lose. Okay, you're gonna lose because even if you win the logical components of that argument, she's gonna resent you for it. And so remember, that goes back to her chimpanzee. When you're having that initial disagreement and you get into an argument, and there's an argument, okay, it's both of your chimpanzees. I got my roommates here. You gonna come? You gonna walk over? You want to walk over and,
no,
and
I'm gonna go take a.
you do a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So he got off earlier than I expected. Anyway, so yeah, so the chimpanzee inside of her brain needs to be a good chimp. I'm a good chimp. That's all that this is, right? So she needs to be seen. This is why when she enters an argument with you, her priority is to be not wrong. Or she needs to be right, but the reason why she needs that is because she needs to be. Women need social proof, and a person who's wrong, a person who makes these mistakes, is essentially maybe not a good chimp. You see what I mean? And if you're not a good girl, okay, you can get thrown out of the tribe or ostracized, and that can mean your death. Women in our primal past relied on the social structure for survival, okay? The reason why men are more apt to admit fault and do stuff is because for men, their social standing in a tribe, or their value, I should say, in a tribe was with what resources they brought in, what they accomplished. So if they could analyze a mistake or a problem and fix it right away, then that accomplishment meant success in battle or resources for the tribe, and then that was a win. But if a woman, admitted fault, and even if though she was fixing the mistake, in the social structure of the tribe, they might not accept her being at fault. Do you see what I mean? And they might ostracize her. So being wrong, if it means I'm a bad chimp for a female, that's something they're going to fight against tooth and nail because it's a survival signal. It's a survival, it signals a survival problem for them. Do you see what I'm saying? So having, don't expect, to, having this argument is going to make you the loser anyway, because she needs to be the good person who is being victimized by the bad person. And even if you're right by logic, then it'll be you didn't treat her right, or you didn't handle her right, or any of that stuff. It'll be in some way, shape, or form that she is the victim, even though she was wrong in that instance, and you are bad. And so it just breeds resentment all around. So what is the goal? So winning is about achieving a goal, okay? It's about getting results. So beating her into submission in an argument, or beating her with logic, is that really the goal? See, I don't think that it is. And if you're in a relationship with a woman, I don't know that should be your goal. If that's your goal, I'm thinking that you don't need to be in a relationship with that woman, okay? I'm thinking that you don't give a shit enough, and so why are you having any sort of exchange with her? You know what I mean? If that's the case. So the win, when guys are trying to win an argument, usually what they're trying to do is validate themselves. All right? So that is, again, validation seeking. That's not what you shouldn't need her or her opinion or even your logic. You should be able to be completely wrong and still be validated as a high value male and feel that to your core. Okay, so beating her in the argument is not necessarily the goal. The goal is that you get the results, right? The goal is that the results for whatever that thing is you're arguing about, if it's, hey, I don't think you should hang out with Kevin in sales anymore because he keeps trying to put his penis on your forehead. If that's the goal and she stops hanging out with Kevin in sales, it doesn't really fucking matter what the logic and reasoning was that had to happen to make that happen. You see what I mean? So it's the results. It's your standards, okay? It's your boundaries, and then that you get the results with those things. All right, that's what's important. Now you get the results that you want, not that she admits fault and admits that you're right in your logic and she's wrong in her logic. Like, none of that stuff matters, okay? Results are what matters, number one. And number two is that you maintain frame and leadership. All right? So you could be right in the argument, but she resents you. She doesn't respect you or your opinion, and she's going to do her own thing anyways, even though she couldn't logically beat you. That means that she's not in your frame. She doesn't respect your leadership. You see what I'm saying? And you could be wrong 100%, but not do an argument where you have to admit you're wrong and say you're sorry and placate to her like an idiot, all right? But where you just set the standard and you move forward, and even though you made a mistake, she respects you, and she respects your leadership, and she's in your frame, you see? So that is the win, is getting the results and having frame control, not just beating her with words, okay? It's not about being right, all right? So now that we understand what the win is, let's talk about how we can get our win where even if she's completely wrong, all right, and has to change her outlook, she's still going to love and respect you for that instead of resent you, all right? So a guy by the name of Dan Weil, 1996, he published 4 phases of an argument. He's a psychologist, all right? So we're going to use that here because it's a good model. So phase 1 is the attack-defend mode. Okay, this is where both parties will tend to, according to Dr. Wild, okay, both parties will have ad hominem attacks. They'll attack each other, okay, and they'll fail to manage and regulate their emotions and their negativity, all right? So this is the phase where dudes will lose the argument right away. It's the attack-defend mode. They will put themselves in this exchange with her, or allow her to have an exchange with him where they're in this battle of words back and forth, and it gets toxic, all right? So if you've already lost if you're allowing that to happen. She beats you, and if she wins this, by the way, you both lose. That's how this works. She wins, you both lose. You win, you both win. It's interesting. It sounds very, I'm sure some will think that's a very misogynist way of looking at it. I don't give a shit. It's the truth, okay? And you'll see why as we progress through this. But she'll beat you in the attack-defend mode right away by sucking you into that scenario where you're in attack-defend. So think about it in terms of frame control, right? Like, she's coming in thinking with this mindset of, I'm going to have this battle. I'm going to have this battle with him, like I'm going to, she comes at you like that, right? And if you're like, oh yeah, like defend, attack, whose frame are you in right now? You're not in yours, right? She's not following your leadership. You're following her leadership by coming into her frame to have this drama back and forth that she wants, okay? So during this phase, this is where she has that existential threat. Am I a good monkey or I'm a bad monkey? And you then get into it going, wait a second, you're the bad monkey, I'm the good monkey. You've lost, all right? So you can't get into this is the defense of who's the better person, not what the argument is. Or you're trying to come at it even if you're not emotional about it. If you get emotional about it, it's certainly 2 monkeys seeing who's the better monkey. If you're not emotional about it and you're trying to be reasonable, all this stuff doesn't matter, okay? Because if she's getting emotional, then she is in I need to be a good person mode. Okay, so again, she's trying to prove that she's a good person who's facing an injustice, and anyone who disagrees with her is part of that injustice, and she needs to resent, hate them, argue with them, beat them into submission. And that person, of course, is you. All right. Good. Passing through?
Yeah, this time.
Okay, cool. So, ready?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going. So we go like this. There we go. This is what you have to do when you're deployed and you live in like super close quarters. Is we have to. Anyway, at least he isn't sleeping like the last video. I can talk loud. All right, so anyway, so back to it. So attack defend mode is where you're gonna lose. So the thing is, you don't participate in the attack in phase 1, okay, which is attack defend. You don't participate in that. All right, so if there's a disagreement or whatever, this is where humor and having a sense of humor and not taking everything so damn seriously can probably solve about 80% of your problems. Things like amuse mastery, things like agree and amplify, or even disagree and amplify, and stuff like that to make your points. All you're doing is listening to her. You're not doing it back and forth, and you just state the way it is. Like, let's say it's an issue with I don't know, I can't. Let's say it's an issue with finances, okay? Just like, well, you know what? We're just not going to spend that kind of money on stuff like that. All right, you make a definitive statement. That's it. There's no, and she could be well and blah 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 back and forth, and then you can make a few jokes and you keep it light. See why does sense of humor work in this phase? Because she can't be a bad chimpanzee if it's not that serious. Do you see what I mean? So it kind of diffuses that hindbrain protective need to start defending herself, right? And if you're not defending yourself and you're keeping it light and humorous, a little bit of agree and amplify, a little bit of amuse mastery and stuff, and not getting it back and forth. Let her just say whatever. It doesn't matter what she says and if her words agree with your words. It really doesn't. What matters is the outcomes, okay? What matters is the leadership and the frame that you maintain. So let's say she wants to spend money on a thing, and you're like, I really don't think, and let's say you're in a marriage and it's a shared financial situation, right? And so you just say, I don't think we need to spend money on that right now. Let's talk about it in 6 months. And she gives you all the reasons why, and you kind of joke around about it, and then the conversation's sort of over, and she doesn't go behind your back and spend that money. Even if she never verbally agreed with you, she's in your frame, and you're getting the results that you want. And she maintained good she's still a good chimpanzee. You see what I'm saying? So you win right there before it goes through all 4 phases of this argument cycle. All right. Now, that'll solve 80% of your problems, but there's gonna be those situations where she's not gonna have it. Okay, like your little fucking cocky funny comments aren't really going to be that impressive to her. She is come in, she's determined to have a fight, and she's gonna suck you into it. That is when you take yourself out of it. You just say, listen, you're too emotional right now for us to have this discussion. We'll talk about it in a few days. And you leave it. And then that's it. And then you just ghost her for a couple days. You're not having a discussion. So what you do is, phase 1, the attack-defend phase, you've taken the wind out of those sails. All right? That is the phase of the argument where you're going to lose. That's where she's going to suck you into her frame to have this back and forth exchange where even if you win, and it's going to cause you to defend, it's going to cause you to appeal to reason. It's going to, if you get upset, you might find yourself placating to her and trying to get her, to, I don't know, whatever. It's you start placating, you start trying to chase her essentially for validation and agreement. And this is, or you get really pissed off and you throw down the gauntlet and you say a bunch of really toxic, shitty things you shouldn't say, and then she puts that all in the memory banks for later on, even if you guys come out of this argument okay. So the attack-defend mode phase is the one you don't participate in. Now who has frame control? You didn't just walk into her scenario of having this back-and-forth toxic exchange. You take yourself out of it. You just say, listen, I'm not going to be talked to like that. We're both going to say things we don't mean. We'll talk about it later. And then you end the conversation, you leave. Okay? You can give her a kiss and then go. All right? Go off to the gym. Go head somewhere else. Go do something else. You're going to diffuse phase 1. All right? So now you're already on the road to you both winning. Okay? Because remember, if you win, she does too. So, the next phase, according to this, is you're still in attack-defend mode, but you're effectively trying to repair. So, phase 2 is effective repair phase. So this is where, okay, she said a bunch of shit she didn't mean. She got bitchy, she got angry, whatever it may be. Now, hopefully you diffused it and you didn't sit there and say a bunch of things that you didn't mean. Okay? Hopefully you didn't participate. She's the only one who participated. If that's the case, see, what's nice about an argument cycle is you take yourself right out of that cycle. She has to go through she'll go through the whole cycle without you. She'll just be off in her little corner doing the whole spin around hamster wheel thing, having this whole argument with herself, and you're just off chasing excellence and not giving a shit, and then she comes back to you, and then you guys, solve the problem because she's being more open to you emotionally to falling into your frame and leadership, and everyone's happy. So, that's the thing. You take yourself out of the argument, she just kind of can do it all on her own. She can go through all these phases all by herself. And it's the beauty of this, right? And I watch it happen with guys I coach, because they'll have it on text message. When they follow my direction, she'll go through all 4 phases just by herself, and then they come back to have a discussion. But this is the phase, though, where, okay, so phase 2 is the repair phase. This is where they're trying to correct the wrongs. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. Or she's like, I shouldn't have been so bitchy. Or, well, maybe you're right about this thing. Okay, so this is where they say that, but they're not willing to concede the argument yet. They're just willing to they've taken some time, and now they're willing to try to repair the shit that they fucked up. Because remember, it's all about being a good chimpanzee. So if they were in a very good chimpanzee during the attack and defend phase, let's say they were calling you names, being bitchy, or let's say they really did something wrong and they weren't willing to admit that, then this is where they have to repair that damage, because they still have to be a good chimp. You know what I mean? So now they're like, oh, you're okay, so maybe you have a good point about this, but they don't want to concede, because if they concede, that makes them a bad chimp again, so they're not ready for that, but they're trying to repair things. This is good. This is progress. So let's say you've done the right thing and you've ghosted for phase 1. You said, listen, we're not going to do this with you acting like this. We'll talk in a few days, all right? Let me know when you're a little bit less upset. And then you walk away from the scenario. You don't call, you don't text. If you guys live together, you just don't really talk very much, and you just minimal contact for what's required for life support, And so let's say 24 hours goes by, and then she sends a text, or, I'm sorry I yelled, okay, but I'm really frustrated, blah, 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 blah. And you're right about this, but what about blah, 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 blah. That's good, okay? So what you don't want is to go right back into attack-defend mode. You don't want to go backwards into phase 1. She's entered phase 2. You want to continue the progress. So this is where you go, okay, like let's say it's text message. You send a text back like, it's all right, baby. I know we'll talk later, and I'm sure we'll work everything out. That's it. Like, the reason why is because she's not ready yet to have the conversation, and she's too easily going to slide back into attack-defend mode, which puts you in that argument that you're not going to have with her, right? So she's not ready to enter your frame yet, but she's definitely she needs to be the good chimpanzee. You told her with some response like that, like, it's all right, we'll deal with this. You told her, hey, you're not a bad chimpanzee. It's going to be okay. We're going to do the right thing, whatever that may be. And even if you were wrong or I was wrong, doesn't matter. You're not a bad chimpanzee. All right, so that's what that says to her. You still want to give it some time, though. Maybe it's a few hours, maybe it's a day or two. It depends on the argument, depends on the person, okay? But you have to let her move into collaborative mode, or collab mode. So phase 3 is collab mode, okay? This is where they're looking for validation or to validate the other person's argument. So now they're actually open to change and coming into your frame. Okay, so this is where, now if you were a beta bitch throughout this entire process and were arguing with her and defending your points and then apologizing and supplicating and doing all that stuff, by the time you get to phase 3, she is going to expect you to validate her and her points and for her to be right so she can be the good chimpanzee and for you to eat shit. All right, and this is why arguing never works and is never a good idea. All right, so you don't want that to be the case. If you took yourself out of the argument, though, and you're not actually having this argument or this exchange with her, what ends up happening is she can't argue with somebody who's not arguing back. So she's going through this argument cycle essentially on her own. Once you get back to the collab mode phase, she is looking more to try to... She's now coming back into your frame. She's now because you've set a standard, and you've said, I am not going to bend from this standard. This is what it is. And until you're willing to be open and be open to the idea you might be wrong here, or be open to the idea that we might need to change what we're doing, you might need to change what you're doing, or maybe you're whatever. Like, she has to be open to coming back to you, and she has to gravitate back into your frame. Not you chase her to convince her, okay? She has to come back to you, and that's where she should be, if you've done this right, seeking your or rather, trying to validate your argument. Like, okay, I understand why you said this. I understand why you said that. I get what you mean. Now, she's still not ready to concede yet, okay? But in this phase, she is now respecting you, respecting your wishes, needs, and trying to rationalize and understand that stuff, all right? Because you didn't chase her and you acted like the dominant leader that you are in this relationship. And you didn't divulge or digress into this, defend, attack, phase 1 stuff. All right, so now she is sort of chasing you to validate that stuff. All right, and so, and you may, in this phase, it's okay for you to validate some of her points if they're correct. You know what I mean? And if you have to remember, she has to be a good chimpanzee. That's more important. You don't give a shit. You can be a bad chimpanzee, still go kill the guy from the other, kill some people from the opposing tribe, and then go bring in some food, and you're fucking fine, even though you're a bad chimp. If she's a bad chimpanzee, though, she gets thrown out of the tribe and killed. You see what I'm saying? And so, like, she still has to. That's why that validation is okay. You're not saying she's right. You're not supplicating yourself to her. You're not conceding your points. Okay, you're just validating her because validating her points that are good, positive reinforcements for any of the good things she's done, because she has to be a good chimp, right? And so that's what this is all about. It's not about the argument. And so now you bring it, and this is where from here in one conversation, when you're letting her validate you, and you're validating the things she's done right, you know what I mean, and not validating. I'm not saying invalidating, but just not validating or recognizing the things she's done wrong. Now she can move comfortably into the admitting mode. Okay, this is where she'll at least admit her role in the disagreement and start and be open to admitting some things that she could have done better. And it's at that phase, even if she does, whether she admits directly, oftentimes if you're right, she'll admit that you're right voluntarily, but she doesn't need to eat shit over it. Again, you're looking for results. If you're sitting there and trying to logically beat her down and then make her eat shit for admitting that she fucked up, well, that's just not going to work, right? Because she's a bad chimpanzee and she's going to resent you for it, okay? So let her do her own admitting and kind of coming to your side. And sometimes that might look like, oh, I understand. Well, I think it was more just a misunderstanding and, I'm more like this anyway. And she starts kind of altering her opinion to match yours a little bit. That's okay. That means she's coming into your frame. You see what I'm saying? She may not sit there and go, you're right, I was wrong, I'm terrible, you're great. That might not be the conversation. Most of the time it won't be. But that's, again, that's fine because you're dealing. And if you don't like that, then don't be with women. You know what I'm saying? All right, this is just how they are, and so you're going to have to deal with it if you want to have productive relationships with women. If you don't care about that, I guess you don't have to deal with it. But, yeah, so, I mean, she might not outright admit faults. A lot of times she will. But some, depending on the type of person she is and how well you run the relationship. But a lot of times she won't. But she'll just kind of come to your frame, just like, I understand why, it's more about Kevin in sales disrespecting you. It's not because you think I'm going to suck his penis, even though he's put his penis on my forehead several times. So I get it. I'm not going to do, I don't want to disrespect you in the relationship. I'm not going to do anything wrong, but I understand it. So, and then she just doesn't go out to lunch anymore with Kevin from sales, right? That's the results. Like, did she say I'm wrong? I'm a terrible chimp? No. Okay. So if your desire is to beat your girl down, and make her feel terrible, then I don't know that you should be in a relationship with her, or possibly anybody, but especially not. You know what I mean? And you might have some insecurities of your own to deal with if that's the case. So, really, it goes back to no fucks given leadership. You really shouldn't give a shit, okay? You don't need her for validation. You know what's right, what's wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. Now, let's say, okay, so this is we just went through 4 cycles, all right? The attack defense mode is phase 1. That's where you get yourself in trouble. The attack defend but with effective repair is kind of phase 2, where she's at least admitting some of the things. She's trying to sympathize with you at least. You know what I mean? She's conceding some things. The collab mode is where she's outright validating you, all right? Or seeking validation from you. and then the processing phase or the admitting phase is where she'll actually admit, you know, her part in the argument, and then you guys can come to some sort of agreement. Now, once again, when you take yourself out of it, you take yourself out at phase one. You try some muse mastery, you're joking around a little bit, and then she's like not having it, and she's being real bitchy at you. All right, I'll talk to you later when you're acting right. You know what I mean? It's pretty much the attitude. And then you talk later. She can go through all these phases all by herself, and you can show up right at the end when she's open to listening, when she's open to having a productive conversation, right around collab mode. She already would have done all. She didn't need your help. She didn't need your logic and reason. She would have gone all around in circles and reasoned it out for herself to try to make it work with you, because you're the alpha dominant male that she wants to be with, right? Not good if you're the beta bitch, or you're the guy that she's just resented because you've just built so much resentment over time she doesn't want to be with you. Well, then she's not going to necessarily come to this, right? Conclusion. And then maybe then the relationship needs to end, right? Until she does. I mean, so if she's facing, like, I'm not going to have a productive relationship with this person until we come to some sort of agreement and we work together on this, then she'll be open to reaching that collab mode portion where she can at least validate you, get some sense of validation, then move right into, okay, let's come to an agreement. You know what I mean? And you could have not changed your position the entire time, and she just alters her position to kind of match yours, reasons around it, believes that she's right too, and she's a good chimp, and then you get the results you want and the frame control you want, and everything's great, and then she loves you for it. You see what I mean? Now let's look at the off chance, though, you know, the chance that you're actually wrong. You fucked up. If you fucked up and you get into attack defend mode stuff with her, where she gets to beat you up over the mistake, well, the problem is this now. You know, the problem is now you have to enter her frame and her leadership to admit your fault, right? And that's bullshit. If you made a mistake, it's very simple. You just say, listen, I shouldn't have done A, B, and C, so I'm going to fix that so that doesn't happen again. We'll be fine. See, definitive statements. You're not arguing, you're setting standards. You make a definitive statement where you actually admit, you know, like, hey, you know what, like, this wasn't good. I'm going to change that or fix that. You're not admitting fault just to make her feel better. You're not going to just, you know, confess to a bunch of wrongs. Like, there's no need to just be like, because as men, if you're chasing excellence especially, you're going to be hypersensitive to the things that you fuck up. You know, so you're not sitting there trying to dump all of your fuck ups onto her table. I did this wrong. I could have talked to you better this way. I could have not hung up so aggressively. I could have used different, you know, whatever, man. Like, a lot of people will just admit to problems and faults that aren't actually faults at all. They're just things they could have done better. And really, who gives a shit about that? So you don't need to do all that. But you just need to get, again, she's not concerned about explanations. She's concerned with results. So all it is, you might have to say, like, you know what? Yeah, I see your point on this. I'm going to think about this a little differently. And here's what we're going to do moving forward. I think be okay. Or let's say, yeah, you know what? I didn't really want to spend money on that thing, but I see your points. All right, we'll go ahead and buy it. You see what I mean? That's taking leadership. She gets her way. That's okay. That doesn't mean she's not in your frame. That doesn't mean you're still the decider. You see what I mean? But if you have this back and forth exchange where she gets to pout and be mad and pissed off after, you know, both of you disrespecting each other during the attack defend phase, and then the rest of the phases involves you supplicating to her, and then at the end she gets to buy the things she wants, then you've lost frame completely. That's not how you handle it, all right? But if she was right, in buying this thing that you guys are arguing over is the better answer, and you handle it by not getting in an argument at all, by not participating in the attack defend phase 1 portion, and you end up thinking about it and just end up saying, like, you know what, I've thought about it, you know, let's go buy that thing. And without any explanation whatsoever, you just say it like that, you still maintain frame. You maybe you made a mistake, and the better answer was to purchase the thing, if that's the argument. But you maintain the frame, you maintain the leadership, and you got to the goal. You see how you win? Even if you admit fault, even if you fuck up, you still win when you keep your mind, your eye on what the actual goal is, and you maintain frame and leadership in the relationship. And that is how you win every time. Okay, even if you're wrong, you win, and she still loves you for it, is crazy about you for it. Because you didn't sit here and give her opportunities to resent you, give her opportunities to run away and get out of frame with you, you know, you didn't beat her down and make her feel like a bad chimpanzee. You see what I mean? And so you maintain dominance because of your outcome independence, not giving a fuck about validation from her, and just sticking with the goal, doing what's right, and maintaining frame and leadership. That's how you win every single time. Well, I didn't get cut off from my video. YouTube managed to allow me to finish. It's going to take a long time to upload, but I think it'll be worth it. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to ask you, because this is like life-saving, kick-ass information, for free, I'm giving you all the fucking answers here. All the answers to a happy life with chicks in your life, whether it's dating multiple people or whether it's in a committed relationship or marriage. You get the answers right here for free, okay? In fact, when people come to me for coaching, it's not usually because they need the answers. That's a gimme. You know, if I'm not the person with the answers, there's other people that I reference all the time that have them. All right, it's usually because the execution isn't so good. It's usually because we need to work on how to execute. It's usually there's some state management and mental state and because you have to execute this this strategy as I explained. You have to have a lot of emotional self-control. You have to have a very much an alpha frame, or you will fall into her frame and having this argument and disagreement. If you have any insecurities, she'll pinpoint those and you'll find yourself in trouble. And that is why guys coach with me and actually pay the money to coach versus just the free information. That being said, though, you could help me a lot by hitting that subscribe button. Okay? Subscribe to this. Especially this last 2-part video is like the answer to a lot of problems for people. So not only subscribe to it, but send it to a friend. Okay? Send it to one or more friends that could use this information. All right? And I bet you anybody that you know that is interested in relationships at all with other people, okay, and interested in having sexual relationships with people, it could benefit from the video. So send it to them and tell them to subscribe, okay, because I'm trying to get, and I'd like to get more subscribers so I can get this kind of life-saving information out to more people. You can't do it if you don't hit the subscribe button. So hit like, hit subscribe. More importantly, though, share it with somebody who needs it. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you for sticking with me this long. Talk to you later.